I was talking with a principal last week, and she said, man, it would be great if I could work less than 60 hours. And I realized I've been keeping a secret from you. I do work less than 60 hours at work, and it's pretty awesome. I'd like to share that with you because it's so powerful. So if you go to transformativeprincipal.org/ideal week, you can sign up for my mini course to figure out how you can shave a ton of time off of your work week. And I gotta tell you, it's awesome. Emergencies are no longer emergencies, and being planful and mindful has changed the way I work. So go to transformativeprincipal.org/ideal week and check it out. But before I get to the interview, I want to tell you about something real quick. Each year, thebestschools.org presents a $20,000 Escalante Gradius Prize for Best in Education. The winners of that exemplify a commitment to learning, discipline, character building, and high expectations that characterize legendary math teacher Jaime Escalante and his principal, Henry Gradius. These two educators helped students excel at East LA's Garfield High School, and their story became the 1988 film Stand and Deliver. Definitely one of my favorites. To celebrate that legacy and the partnership of teachers and school administrators, thebestschools.org awards $10,000 to one outstanding K-12 teacher or school administrator, and also a $10,000 grant to the winner's school or district. For 2017, the prize focuses on school administrators, which includes principals, school counselors, in-school curriculum designers, superintendents, and any school or district educators not based in the classroom. The primary criteria for consideration are doing more with less and demonstrably raising student academic performance. Details in the quick nomination form are online at thebestschools.org/prize. Nominations for 2017 end March 31st, so nominate an outstanding school administrator today. Welcome to Transformative Principal. I'm excited to have you here today, and I'm going to continue my conversation with Adam Beauchamp, and he is doing some really cool RTI stuff that is based on some powerful PLC processes that he's been doing down at his school in Enid, Oklahoma. And what I just love about this conversation is that here we are 5,000 miles away from each other, and we're doing pretty similar things. Never met before, never talked before. And it's one of the things that I love about doing this podcast is hearing from people who are doing incredible things all the way across the country. And it's just fantastic. So thanks for listening. And if you've got an idea of somebody that I should interview, go to transformativeprincipal.org and enter their name take the link to refer someone. It'll be great to hear from other people who are doing amazing things. So enjoy the conversation with Adam Beauchamp, part 2. What do you do when there's multiple needs for a particular student? So if that student needs math and reading help, what do you do for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that same kid, typically he needs science help and he needs social studies help. And in full disclosure, I mean, our stepchildren are our science and social studies teachers because they don't. And we did a couple years ago, we went on a 4-week rotation on priority. It was math. And what I mean by priority is when that list comes up and you've got those 700 kids listed there, the math PLC got to go through that entire list and pick first. And then the English was second, and then the social studies was third, and then the science was fourth. And then it would rotate through. And then so on week 4, science was getting first pick and going. But after going through that, we've come to either the realization or the theory or the belief in our building that we're going to focus on our English language arts and our math kids, because we feel if they get those skills being in our social studies and our science PLCs, there's a belief in those groups that they don't feel they're getting cheated, because they believe and know that if this kid becomes a better reader, if he has better comprehension, if he has a better understanding of this vocabulary and this language, it's going to help me in science, it's going to help me in geography or history, social studies, and then the same thing with math, of those thinking skills and those mathematical skills. So they've given that up, our science and social studies teachers, to say, hey, we value what you guys are doing because there is so much crossover, and we've learned that. And we started off saying, hey, you guys are important too, but they also know what's important. And when we create better readers and kids who have a better understanding of math, it crosses over into every subject area. So that's one thing we have changed as well, is only giving the priority to math and reading. One thing that's new for us, Jethro, we've just started this. We'll implement it for the first time next week. We've got 90 students that we feel are behind far enough in reading that we've created a cohort with those guys. And we're not going to switch them back and forth between math and reading. They're going to be in a 6-week study group that we're going to put them doing nothing but English language arts reading. They're going to be doing some computer-based stuff. We've pulled the teacher out that she's not assigned in an RTI class. If anything, she's going to coordinate that cohort, and whether she determines that she needs to pull some of that 90 in for some small group stuff. And it's going to be driven by a computer-based program that she's going to monitor, and then she's going to periodically pull that 90, and she's going to have total control of that group. And we've given up, our math teachers have given up and said, hey, we understand, because we know actually what we've learned in math is a lot of math now is word problems, and our kids aren't missing the math as much as they're getting confused with the wording and the problems. So we think it's going to help us as well. So that's something we're excited about, seeing what comes about in these next 6 weeks with that small group.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So I feel like we are long lost brothers, Adam, because we've taken a similar path. It looks like about the same time frame to do some of these things. I want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing at my school, and a lot of it falls in, very similar to what you're doing. But we did a couple of things different. The first thing that we did different is we had foundations classes, that we call them, that actually take the place of a student's elective. So if a student needs to go to, we call them tutorials for something they're behind in, and they're there for an extended period of time because they're still not catching up, then we put them into that foundations class so that they get that extra support and have it take the place of one of their electives. And we expected some backlash about that. What we actually got was kids saying, no, I actually need this, and kids requesting to stay in that foundations class, which is a class period, and be able to still get the help because they knew that they needed it. So that's really powerful when kids can
How many periods, Jethro, are you guys a day? How many class periods?
We're 7,
okay,
and they're 45 minutes each.
Or is it 3 electives, or how many do you guys have? A reading class, or what's your core classes?
Yep. So core class is math, science, language arts, social studies, PE, and then 2 electives. And what we used to have was a 90-minute block for everybody for language arts. And we changed that because our language arts scores were awesome. We adjusted that to be 90 minutes or 45 minutes language arts and 45 minutes of reading foundations or math foundations just for those who needed it. So what we were seeing was that we were getting everybody success in language arts because they had 90 minutes, but anybody who needed extra help with math wasn't getting that, and so they were not being served. So now we have an opportunity for them to get both help in both of those areas. And we've actually moved away from the foundations for language arts because it did not prove to be effective at helping those kids who were struggling. And so instead we pushed literacy into all the content areas and had all of our content teachers focus on literacy, which does seem to be helping our students be more proficient. So anyway, pretty exciting to hear the cool things that you're doing. Are you guys also 7 periods a day?
Well, and we've switched. We've went to 6 periods. We've always been 7. This year as a district, we went to 6 periods. With that 7th period, we call it a 6+ hour that we offer classes. We used to go until 3:30. Now we get out at 2:30 officially, but we still offer that 2:30 to 3:30 class. We have several different tutoring classes. We have a lot of our clubs during that time. So it's not an official class, but we've got about 250 of our students out of 733. That's not including athletics. We've got another I would say 180-ish that are in athletics. So about half of our students choose to stay during that time. And whether it's take an enrichment club or take something for tutoring or athletics, that's how we've switched it this year. And really that came about, it was a budget call that by only having 6 periods a day versus 7, it saved us 3 teachers having to hire. So really, it was a budget deal more than anything. So I'm not going to sit here and advocate and say that it's been, something we came about because of financial reasons.
Sure. Well, that's a fascinating story. One of the other things that we've done up here is we actually created an app to track and manage all of our students in these tutorials that we made open source, and it's at pickr.org, pickr.org. And it's still a pretty rough app as far as installing it on a computer, but once it's there, it's awesome. So what happens with us is kids will log in to the system using their name and that they pull up from a list and then their student ID number. And when they do that, then if they're in a tutorial for remediation, then they don't get to choose what their class is because it's already chosen for them by the teacher, much like you guys do. But then when they don't need remediation and they get to do an enrichment class, then they get to choose from this big long list of whatever it is that we're doing. And we include custodians, we include non-certified staff, we include any adult who wants to work with kids in those tutorials so that they've got a lot of options. And we have found that organization is just awesome. Man, it is so good, and it is so slick and seamless, and it always, not always, 99.9% of the time works. There's about 1 kid every week that can't get in and choose their thing, and 1 kid each week that said they signed up for something and then it didn't actually take. And so it's just been an awesome thing. The other small difference is that our tutorials are 2 weeks long every day, Monday through Friday, and they last for 2 weeks. And so we're able to constantly adjust and put different kids in, and have seen some really powerful things from it. But the Picker app, being able to have each kid see only his assignment and not other kids, and being able to have the teachers pick it first and then have the kids choose it afterward, has been really awesome for us too.
That was going to be, talking about you use all these people and kids are able to go in and out, but it's off of a 2-week basis. And that's kind of been some of our, I don't know if it's struggle back and forth, but, we want to have it flexible enough where kids can come and go. And, hey, if I'm getting something out of this, I stay. If I don't feel like I'm getting something out of this, we want to be able them to go to something different. But it's also, hey, if I've got a science teacher and she's doing a 1-week unit with these guys on building catapults, it's hard for kids to be able to come and go. They kind of need to be there for that unit. So every kid is in one of your sessions for 2 weeks, and then they get to switch. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. That's kind of been some of ours. We want them to pick, but we also want to have some time dedicated in there so they can really get to decide if they like it or not, instead of just coming and going. So we're at a week right now with ours.
Yeah. And to be completely honest, we've debated back and forth on that. And what it really came down to for us was it was enough effort for the teachers to change every week that it wasn't necessarily the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, as they say. And so being that flexible just didn't work for our situation because it added enough overhead that you were doing it every week. Right now, you have the overhead of starting these new groups every 2 weeks, and that makes it work well enough that you can process through it just fine. And that's been really neat for us to experience, is that the kids also like that time period because you're in there long enough to get into something. And, like the catapult example, I have a hard time seeing how we could get a catapult done in a week, but we can definitely get it done in 2 weeks. And just fascinating how we've been able to make it work on both our ends in a way for that. So that's very cool.
Like with your figuring or your remediation stuff, if kids in there for academics, is it, Ours, we want to say, is fairly targeted, and they say, hey, giving me 4 days in there with little Adam is enough to address that skill. Because we debated a 2-week deal, but I felt, hey, I don't need him for 2 weeks because I'm just pulling him for one skill, and I can get that done in 30 minutes for 4 days in a row. That's kind of how we came up with the week versus anything else, because we weren't getting enough because we were rotating every 2 days, and then we debated on how long and keeping him in there, and we talked about a month, 6 weeks, a week, and we ended up coming up with the week time frame. And so far, I would say it's going good for us right now. But it's really the academic piece of it, and the kids who were behind is where the week came from. Because we felt the other ones, the enrichment, we could make it whether it was a day lesson or a week lesson or a 2-week lesson, we could make it fit for them. The teachers liked the week because then they could design a lesson for a week and then have it for a year and just pull it out every week. They felt that if we were going to be rotating every day, the kids were going to be in and out of here, it might be harder for me to have something that keeps them engaged. If I know who I have and for that time frame, then I think I can design a catapult unit and get them in there and get them out of there, as opposed to before when, man, you're changing these kids every Tuesday and Thursday. I'm already teaching 2 different courses of science, and now I got to come up with, something every other day to keep them hooked up. It was too much on them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. One of the other things along those same lines that we've done with this time is that this is really a student-driven time as much as possible. And so we encourage teachers to choose something that they are interested in or already good at or whatever. And then the kids are really the ones who are pushing it. So we're not asking teachers to create an additional lesson during this time. We're asking them to facilitate students participating in whatever activity. And taking that approach, we've found, has been really beneficial because it takes the pressure off the teacher of feeling like they have to be the sage on the stage and actually teaching something. And what we want them to do is to help the kids be in charge of their own learning, especially in those extensions, so that they have the opportunity to do what they are interested in, and the teachers are there facilitating and supporting it. And so that's been another thing, that a little tweak that we've added in, that, teachers still, because they're teachers and want to be prepared, still do some prep for it, but it's not the expectation. And it also sounds like your enrichments are a lot more structured than ours. Ours are really all over the board.
Well, what you're saying is really some of the best thing that we get out of what we do. I know early on some of our distractors and within the building, people, I do this. You're giving me another prep, this or that. It really didn't come about to be that way. And that's some of the questions I used to get a lot from other staff and people talking about doing when we switched to clubs was, how do you get all those people to do that? Well, it's one of 2 camps with our staff. They're either so fired up and they want to go teach mindfulness and yoga to these kids and they're asking me if they can do it, or it's the other one where they're not fired up about it. Well, that's great because, actually our best ones are the ones like you talked about. It's student-led, and that teacher's just in there to be in there to make sure there's an adult in the room. But if those kids sitting there coding computers and tearing apart treadmills and making different things out of them, and it's the kids leading it, and those teachers don't have to do anything. The ones that are doing it are fired up and they want to teach this thing that they don't get to teach because, hey, I'm an English teacher and I want to teach kids how to knit and crochet, so I'm excited about bringing this stuff in there and teaching it to them. Or the other ones, that's great, you don't have to because this is a totally student-led deal. So no, that's been exactly like we've structured a little bit more. It used to be very, very student-led in our clubs, and now a lot of our clubs have went to that 2:30 to 3:30 time. And then during our RTI, that 30-minute period, it's structured in that we assign people to places, but they've picked and choose, hey, I want to lead this health and fitness club, or I need that list in front of me because I can tell you those 12 and what they are. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but our teachers have got to pick wherever camp they fall in, whether they want to spend some time and effort on it or they just want to show up and let the kids get after it. So that's absolutely been a great benefit.
Yeah, very cool. So I love the conversation that we're having, and I want to be respectful of your time. And my last question that I ask every guest on the interview is, what's something that principals can do this week to become a transformative principal like you are, Adam?
I don't know if that label fits. What can another principal do to do that we're doing? I think some of the best things that we do are really one thing, and I know it's on that Will Parker's deal that I talked about. I think my role as a so-called leader, as that transformative principal, is not to be the one with all the ideas. It's really to be the first follower. And we've got a bunch of staff members and a bunch of kids who have a bunch of great ideas. And it's supporting those great ideas, and it's promoting those. And one thing that I think my job is to do is, what you can do as a principal to get out, and whether it's right now, today, tomorrow, is recognize those great things that are going on. And great things are not huge things. Great things are just people taking the time and effort and recognizing that. And sometimes that's just coming up and having that short, quick conversation. Sometimes it's a handwritten note. Sometimes it's, giving them a plug on social media or recognizing them in front of their classroom. But I think that's probably the biggest thing you can do to continue to transform the great things that are going on is support those people, recognize them, and celebrate the things that they're doing that are continue to allow your students in your school to have success. So off the top of my head, that's what I would encourage everybody to do is encourage others and support that the job that they're doing and the difference that it's making.
Well, I think that is fantastic advice. Adam, how do people connect with you on social media and learn more about what you're doing?
Yes, absolutely. You can feel free to reach us, hear anything on our website, all my contacts information on there. Waller Middle School, Enid, Oklahoma. We do have social media. We've got a school YouTube channel, Waller Podcast. We've got a school Twitter and a Facebook account. Of course, you can just search our name on Facebook. Our Twitter account is We Are Waller. My personal professional Twitter account is Beauchamp_Adam, or my email's on the website as well. And anyways that you guys want to reach out, visit, whether it's through technology or in person. We love talking about what we do because it always gives us some time to reflect and more often than not tweak or change some things. And just like today, Jethro, learning from you and others. So I would encourage people to reach out because not only are we going to talk with them, we're going to have a lot of questions for them. And I think that's the best way for both of us to learn.
Totally agreed. And if you want to know more about the things that we've done at my school, you can go to transformativeprincipal.org/episode 100. Episode 100, and that's where I talked about a bunch of the things that we've been doing at our school. Also, put links to some of the things that Adam talked about today at transformativeprincipal.org, and so be sure to go and check that out. And Adam, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Hey, thank you. It's my pleasure, a true joy to be on here. I appreciate what you're doing, Jethro, for the educational community and the leadership that you've provided. So thank you again.
Wasn't that a great interview? Man, I feel like Adam is my long-lost brother. It's fantastic. I put a link to the first follower video by Derek Sivers in the show notes after hearing Adam talk about that. And I think it'd be great if you could go check that out, transformativeprincipal.org, and check out the link to the first follower video by Derek Sivers. Really powerful stuff about how to really be the first follower. That'll be a good supplemental thing to add to this. So make sure you check that out. Also, if you have not yet signed up for the Ideal Week mini course that I created, please go to transformativeprincipal.org and sign up for the mailing list, and you'll be able to do that. And that is just incredible. I was able last Thursday, I was able to get so much done. I could not believe it. I was batching my time, making good choices with what I was doing during the day, and the emergencies that popped up did not faze me at all. So if you haven't checked that out yet, please do. And transformativeprincipal.org/ideal week, and that'll take you right to it. And I'll talk a little bit more about it and help you get going on making your time more effective. Thanks for listening and have a great day. Transformative Principal is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators by educators. Visit edupodcastnetwork.com for more great podcasts.